didn't get into drugs too much, but drink a lot of alcohol. Very, as you know, very Australian culture. And then I stopped that. I had enough of that. I like being drunk. I don't mind being out of control per se, but I didn't like the physical effect it was having on me. And I was using alcohol as a means to distract from my unresolved stuff, essentially, right? And, I used sex a lot. Sex, food, and alcohol. Stopped the alcohol, stayed with the food. That was from a very young age. We can go into that later. And started getting into sex. And it was prostitution. It was as many women as I could be with. I was using sex as a way to, the greater the pain, the greater the pleasures required to mitigate the pain. Not knowing that, that's what I was going for. So food and sex for me were it. And adrenaline, adventure, travel, all of that. And it was all to avoid this stuff that I didn't want to feel, which was the experiences that I had growing up. I locked them away. Lots of violence, lots of abuse, lots of volatility, lots of uncertainty in my household between my parents, between myself, my brother, my mum and dad. It was just very, very painful growing up. Couldn't be myself, lots of deep insecurities, lots of shame, body shame, emotional shame, expressive shame, just shame, full stop. And so I was running from that. And I used sex, food to really do that. And I went really deep into the realm of shadow sexuality, really, really deep. And that's where I was very, I guess, unconscious, for lack of a better term. And then eventually in my very early 30s, early 30s, I started feeling that this isn't for me anymore. It's becoming a burden to cheat. It's becoming a burden to be unfaithful in relationships. It's becoming a burden to wear all these masks, to dress up emotionally and relationally in all these different ways and pretend to be someone that I'm not. I feel so out of integrity. I'm just not living a life of integrity. I'm saying one thing, this is how I'm presenting, but man, I'm living a very different life in the shadows.
Can I ask you a question really quick? Because I think that version of you, right, is an archetype of man that a lot of women have broken themselves against, right? So can you tell me a little bit about those women that you engaged with and what their experience was like? Because I think some of us, most women listening, I think, most of anybody, but most women will have a story of a man like you, like a beautiful soul, but traumatized and damaged and so committed to trying to run from your pain. Did they fall in love with you? Did they try and be in partnership with you? Did they understand that you were just out to have a good time? Like, what happened to the feminine around you when you were in that space?
If it was a casual encounter, nothing really, because it was just a casual encounter, and I'd either end it pretty quick, or they would end it, or we would just end it. Or it was just that. It was the agreement was, or the unspoken agreement was, it's a casual encounter. For the partnerships that I was in, we went deep into relating. However, I wanted all of that, but at the same time had this terror within me. I was absolutely terrified and so fearful that we're getting too close. She's going to see the real me. Fear of intimacy, fear of losing my freedom, fear of being constrained like I was when I was a child, fear of the enmeshment and the entanglement I experienced with my mother. Just fear. And instead of speaking that fear and putting words to it and really, really expressing that, I didn't want to disappoint. That was part of my pattern as well, was people pleasing, right? And being seen in a particular way. So all I did was, what they don't know won't hurt them. And it gives me reprieve, but I need more of the reprieve, so I have to do more of it. And then there's more guilt and shame. And so there's this spiraling that takes place. And eventually I just couldn't anymore. I couldn't. It was too much. And look, the reality is, and I put my hand up and own this, I didn't have the courage with the partner where I really went deeper into transformation. I didn't have the courage to be proactive and tell her and say, hey, this is what I've been doing. She found out. And then I opened up. That was the beginning of the end for me, the beginning of the end of the old self and the beginning of a new self. But it came with a lot of pain, and I hurt her so much. My actions hurt her so much. The person I was being and wasn't being hurt her and me and the relationship so much.
So are you talking about cheating specifically? Like she found out about cheating and then
everything. Yeah.
Okay.